2,782 named characters. The Wheel of Time has a lot of characters. Now, obviously, not all of them are important, right? But in my opinion, one of Robert Jordan's strengths was how much life he could breathe into his characters. Even the side characters. Even characters that only show up for one scene. It honestly amazes me. And so I thought I'd make a video about my favorite side characters, or I don't know what to call them, like C or D list characters. And of course, in order to talk about these characters, I'm going to end up spoiling things. And in this case, unfortunately, I'm going to be going all the way to the end of the series. So if you have not finished the book series, not the television series, the book series, sorry. There'll be spoilers ahead, so beware. But that having been said, let's get into it.
Let's be nerdy, bitch. Let's be nerdy, let's be nerdy. Let's be nerdy, bitch. Let's be nerdy, bitch. Let's be nerdy, let's be nerdy, bitch.
Now, of course, saying that I'm going to be talking about side characters sort of begs the question, what makes a character a side character, or like a C or D list character? This is a bit of a complicated question, and I thought about it quite a bit, and I came up with sort of a point-by-point ranking system for characters. It gets a bit involved, but I'm going to try and make it clear so that it makes sense. So, first of all, for a character to be on the C or D list, they have to, number one, feel like it. That's pretty much it, honestly. I tried to be more clinical and, objective with it initially, but what I kept bumping up against was that if I'm using things like page time or POVs or number of words, etc., Tamel Thor would probably end up as a C or D list character, and maybe technically he is, but he doesn't feel like it, not to me. And so, yeah, I'm just going to be upfront and say my classification of these characters is entirely subjective. Do not come at me. Okay. So, number 5, I don't know, it's not really in order, although the last one definitely is my number 1. But, I don't know, and I will also say these are my favorites today. There are so many characters that if you ask me next week, I might have a different list. But today, alright, the character I'm gonna begin, discussing in my favorite side characters is Balwer, who I just learned today, his name is Sebban Balwer. When do we hear his first name? I looked it up because I was like, do we ever hear his first name? And it's right there on the WoTWiki. I don't know how we know this information. But anyway, he is a character that I find particularly interesting because I don't think we actually ever get a POV from him, do we? And I'm just very curious about his motivations. I would not be so curious about him if he had just only ever been a spy master for the White Cloaks. Because then I would just think, oh, okay, so he believes in their mission and he's good at his job. Cool, that's all I need to know. But when he ends up with Perrin and Faile and he shows incredible loyalty to Perrin and Faile, and also some real animosity towards the White Cloaks, then I start to think, oh, okay, I don't know this man at all. Now, it is possible that, he could have just changed his perspectives and opinions over time. That does happen, right? But I don't think so, because it's because of how quickly he shifted loyalties. Now, when I read the books and he first appears, I find myself wondering why he ended up with the White Cloaks, in the first place. I do not believe that he is a true believer in their cause or their mission. He's a character that I want to know his backstory. I want to know, A, how he learned his skills. I want to know, B, the steps in his life that brought him into that position. I want to know what he gets out of it. I don't think he cares about the monetary gain. I don't think he cares about the money. He's getting something out of it. I don't know what his motivation is. And I don't know. It fascinates me. He's just very, very interesting to me. Okay, next on my list, Sheriam. Shariam is a character who, to me, she is so much more interesting now than she was before we learned that she was Black Aja. I fully admit, I did not guess that at all. Because prior to the reveal, how do I say this? I didn't think that she was, worthy of attention. I knew who she was, she was the mistress of novices, but paying attention to her words or her actions, looking for clues. I I'm not even talking about, like, I didn't notice it the first time. I'm one of the people who was, reading and rereading the books every time a new one came out. And sometimes rereading the, up until then, published books just for fun in between, like, the next book coming out. And even with, like, all the rereads that I was doing and knowing that the end was near and that there were suspicions and Black Aja and Dark Friends all over the place, Sheriam was background to me. Like, she was set dressing. Really, I liked her. Don't get me wrong. But her character, it was set dressing. Other characters were so much more interesting and evolved. So she was just a nice person who was there. I do remember being curious as to why she was being, like, tortured and tormented, but there was a lot of shit going down by that point in the books that any questions about Sheriam would get pushed to the side in my mind by questions that I had about other characters. So when the reveal happened, it completely got me. Like, it shocked me to my core. More than the Varen reveal. I love the Varen reveal. I don't mean to say that the Varen reveal was less impactful. It's just, explaining my thoughts here. When the reveal happened with Varen, I was like, oh, so that's what her deal was. Whereas with Sheriam, I was more like, wait, what? What? We were supposed to be paying attention to Sheriam? Like, that's what I felt like. It's just, that came out of nowhere. And so now, when I'm reading, I find everything she does so interesting. And, like, most of it probably isn't, what fascinates me about her is that I think she just became a Dark Friend for the practicality of it. Not knowing that she was going to be living in the time of the apocalypse. And so she just wanted to do well, and it was a strategy for her. And it informs us a bit about her and the way she thinks. She was probably willing to do some bad things at the beginning of her career as an Aes Sedai, I guess, in order to ensure her own success. What interests me about Sheriam is her normality, to be honest. She basically just wanted to cut some corners, speed up the process, snowplow her way to prosperity a bit. And, so she chose an evil way to do that, but I don't think, at least my read on it anyway, I don't think she fully mentally committed to the evil. Probably didn't think she'd have to be really evil anyway. She was just a normal person who wanted an easy path to success, and then things snowballed out of control for her. It's the if you give a mouse a cookie of evil. And I'm sorry, that's a kid's book reference. I'm a teacher. But anyway, I'm fascinated with how you cope with that, and how specifically Sheriam, who is an Aes Sedai, who has taken an oath, an unbreakable oath, would cope with that. Because other Dark Friends who maybe found themselves in this position, they could try to leave. Now, they probably would fail, they probably would die, but they can at least try. Sheriam can't because of the oath rod. And that's so interesting to me. But okay, let's move on. From someone who I think chose evil because they thought it would be the easy route, to someone who I think chose evil because they are a fundamentally evil person. Adnan Khadir. Now, I probably wouldn't care at all about Adnan Khadir if we didn't get that one POV chapter from him, but damn, that chapter. It is awful. In the most amazing way. It's bone-chilling, really. Okay, it's one chapter, but in that one chapter, Robert Jordan, he really, really shines. He does such a good job of painting this man's character. Khadir thinks about Saldea and how he misses it. He thinks about his sister, and he thinks about her so lovingly and fondly, but then turns around and immediately starts thinking about how he would have killed his new traveling companions if he didn't know they were above him in rank. And then Ascendra comes in, and it gets worse and worse. And this chapter, it's a masterpiece, man. It begins with him thinking lovingly of his sister, and then it ends with him remembering with some mild regret that he had killed her. Okay, actually no, it doesn't end with that. That's right before the end. He remembers having slowly strangled his sister to death as he's killing somebody else. Like, killing a woman causes him to remember killing his sister. And then he ends by humming a lullaby that his sister taught him. This chapter, it's so neat. It's so neatly tied up. It's horrifyingly beautiful. And And being in Kadir's mind, it's awful. It's horrible. But it's horrible in such a good way. Like, it's one chapter, and yet in that one chapter, he becomes so vivid in my mind that it's like having a sore that hurts to touch, but for some reason you can't stop touching it. Like, that's what he's like to me. I don't want to be in his head anymore. And yet, I kind of want to know what I would see if I was in his head some more. I also kind of want to know what sort of things he's left in the wake of his life up until this point, because I bet it's bleak. Like, I bet it's dark. I bet it's awful. And it's like watching, like what, a true crime documentary. Like, it's horrible, but you can't look away. I want to know. Next on my list, Olivia. Olivia, the former Damane, the strongest living female channeler, or at least the strongest female channeler born in the Third Age, I think is the qualifier that is used. Okay, I do have to admit, okay, first of all, I'm a little salty about Olivia because she's stronger than Nynaeve. Nynaeve, who has been the strongest female channeler who isn't a Forsaken up until this point, and then Olivia shows up and easily outstrips her. It wouldn't bother me so much, except this is a thing that just happens to Nynaeve a few times. Like, Nynaeve doesn't care, but as a Nynaeve champion, I do. Like, this happens with her healing Stilling as well. She performs a miracle that wasn't even able to be done during the Age of Legend, so this isn't even like something that hasn't been done in 3,000 years. This is probably something that hasn't been done in like 10,000 years. Possibly never. Like, possibly not in this turning of the wheel. Nynaeve might be the first person to have figured this out. And it's amazing, and it's incredible, and then Damerflynn does the exact same thing without any input from Nynaeve whatsoever. So it just makes it like, oh, well, I guess, I mean, anybody who thought about it could have done it, I guess. Like, it's not exactly that, but it undermines the amazingness of that moment to me. And so when Olivia showed up, I was just like, oh, come on, not again! That was my feeling. But okay, not to make everything about my girl Nynaeve, let's get back to Olivia. I find her so interesting, like, just from a human psychological place. Like, she has been through incredible trauma for centuries. She is literally, like, she was a slave with zero autonomy for 4 centuries. And the books actually make a point of letting us know that she has made it to, like, 400 plus years old without knowing the details of what sex entails. That's how isolated and removed from the human experience she has been for this entire time. She's a character that when I start thinking about her, I don't so much want to know about her background or her past. I can fill that in and it's awful. I don't have questions about her backstory. I mostly want to know more about her future. I want to know what is going to happen in her life. Like, we know already, for example, that people who have been institutionalized for long periods, let's say, like if you're imprisoned or for a long time, they're known to have trouble adjusting to freedom on the outside. Olivia has had that for 4 centuries, and not just imprisonment. She has had no autonomy whatsoever. How do you adjust to that? What do you make of the rest of your life? How do you learn to make friends and trust people? What do you find as a purpose when, for your entire life, your purpose has been chosen for you? I personally headcanon Olivia as being part of the downfall of the Shanshan Empire with the next character on my list. But okay, actually, I will talk about that more with the next character. So, okay, the number 1, my favorite side character in the Wheel of Time, I already talked about at length in my Jodie Whittaker video, which I guess I will link in the description. It's a video about roles that I think Jodie Whittaker could play in the Wheel of Time because I love her and I want her in the show, and that's all. But whatever. My favorite side character or C-list character in the Wheel of Time is Egeanin. I am always saddened when I go to look for Egeanin art and there is only one picture that I can find. And it's a great picture, don't get me wrong, the picture is fantastic. It's by Ariel Burgess, so you know it's going to be good because she's amazing at what she does. But the fact that there's only one makes me think that other people aren't recognizing how awesome Egeanin is. Egeanin has, in my opinion, one of the best arcs in the entire series. It is a gorgeous, sweeping, satisfying character arc. Egeanin comes into the story having bought everything that the Shanshan Empire is selling. She believes that the Shanshan way of doing things is the right way, that the people in the Westlands are just oath breakers, and that channelers should be enslaved along with a bunch of other people. She believes it all. And then she gets left behind when the Shanshan are routed at Falma, and her whole world gets turned upside down. Watching her have to constantly remake her worldview as things keep shifting and changing around her, she's an icon. Like, she is what I would want to be, you know? She's a person who had very, very strongly, firmly held beliefs. But when presented with evidence that her beliefs are wrong, she changed. And it was hard. It was world-shattering for her. We see it. But she did it, and she does it with dignity and grace almost every single time we see her in the books after her introduction. I mean, it's when something earth-shattering is happening to her. Like, okay, first it's, okay, so, Elaine and Nynaeve seem cool. Female channelers aren't monsters who need to be enslaved. And then it's, oh, no, so the Soldam who control the channelers, the very basis of power for the Shanshan Empire, turns out they can also channel. And then it's, I had to buy the man I love in order to stop him from being captured, and now he's my slave, but he won't act like my slave, and how do I process that? And, like, thinking about that, and, like, there's several others, and then you get to the end of the series, and thinking about how she came into the series, and how she ends, having become a warder to the Amerlin seat. It's just such an arc, and every step of it makes sense. Every step is logical, and it follows the previous step, but it is massive, and it is so gratifying, and I love her so much. And for her, when it comes to what I want, the more information that I want, it's like with Olivia. What I want to know is about her future. I have a whole headcanon where Egeanin works along with Bail Domon and Min and Matt to create a sort of underground railroad for the Damane. And, okay, this is where, as I mentioned, Olivia would come in, because, alright, I kind of think of Egeanin as a patriot. Like, in my headcanon, I think she loves Shanshan, loves the Empire, loves her country, but sees the obvious flaws in it, the brutality and injustice of slavery, and so she would want to abolish it. I'd see as someone who would want to fix the country from within, while having it still be a country. Olivia, on the other hand, in my headcanon, understandably hates Shanshan and would want to destroy it from without. And that's a story I would want to see. I would want to know more about these two characters and their opposing goals, and like they're goals that I understand and I sympathize with, and I kind of agree with both. Like, whenever I finish a reread, I'll agree with both. No, I don't like the Shanshan. I kind of want them to go. But I sympathize with my headcanon interpretation of Eggianon's goal of wanting to fix Shanshan. And whenever I finish a reread, this is where my mind goes. Like, I love my main characters, but their stories, well, okay, with the exception of Matt. Matt, in my mind, is sort of like, his character arc is like mid-arc at the end of the series. But the rest of them, their arcs feel finished to me, so I don't really think about what happens to them afterwards. Like, as much as I love Nynaeve, if you ask me what happens to Nynaeve after the books, I'm like, I don't know, she's going around healing people. Maybe she went to the Isle of Madmen and is healing madmen over there. Like, I haven't really put that much thought into what happens to our main characters, but Egeanin and Olivia, absolutely. I want to know what happens to these characters so much. So, those are, right now, my top 5 side characters, C and D list characters in the Wheel of Time. And like I said, I say right now because my list might change next week, because there are so many characters in this series. Although I don't think my number 1 would change. Egeanin has been a favorite of mine for like nearly a decade now. But how about you? Who are your favorite side characters in the Wheel of Time? Least favorite side characters? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like my channel and want to support me, please consider checking out my Patreon. That is also linked in the description below. To my patrons, as always, thank you so much for sticking with me. I am truly more grateful than you can ever know. It means a lot to me. And with that, I am gonna end this here. So please like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!